Picture this. It's World War II. You're a German soldier, thousands of miles from home. It's dark, it's cold, you turn on the radio, and through the crackle and static you hear a voice. It's low, sultry, and feels like it's meant just for you. It's the voice of a woman you only know as Vicky.
Hello, boys. Here I am again, your Vicky with 3 kisses, she'd whisper into the microphone. She would play music, talk about life back home, and she'd always end her broadcast with 3 signature smooches. For these soldiers, she was the girlfriend they missed, the wife they longed for. But here's the thing. Vicky wasn't real. She was a complete illusion, a secret weapon, designed not to comfort the enemy, but to destroy their morale from the inside out. So, who was the real woman behind the mic? Well, that voice belonged to Agnes Bernauer, a 21-year-old actress. And in one of the most incredible ironies of the entire war, this perfect Aryan-sounding pinup was actually a dark-haired, half-Jewish refugee who had fled Germany to escape the very men she was now whispering to every night.
You have to understand, for her, this fight was deeply, deeply personal. She'd seen Nazis attack her own father's theater in Berlin as a child. Her family was persecuted. She managed to escape to England back in '36. And for years, she felt powerless. But then in 1944, she got a chance to fight back, not with a rifle, but with her voice.
She auditioned for this secret project, and an American agent from the OSS, that's the forerunner to the CIA, he heard her and knew instantly she was the one. He told her she had a blonde voice, the perfect vocal camouflage for the part she was born to play. So Agnes was sent to this top-secret compound in the English countryside called Milton Bryan. We're talking barbed wire, German shepherds on patrol, the whole 9 yards. This place was the nerve center for the Allies' psychological warfare operations. Now, the Nazis knew something was going on over in Britain, even if they couldn't pinpoint exactly where. In fact, German Grand Admiral Karl Donitz gave the operation a nickname that stuck, the Giftkuche, which means the poison kitchen. Pretty fitting, considering the toxic lies they were brewing up. So what exactly were they cooking up in this poison kitchen? Well, they specialized in something called black propaganda. Now, this isn't your standard wartime propaganda, just making the enemy look bad. This is way more sophisticated. It is pure deception. The whole point is to create messages that pretend to come from a source you trust, like your own side's military radio. To really get how sneaky this is, it helps to compare it to what's known as gray propaganda. With gray propaganda, the source might be a little murky, but the anti-Nazi message is pretty obvious. Black propaganda? That's a whole other level. The source itself is a complete fake, and the real goal is just to shatter the listener's sense of reality, to make it impossible to tell what's true and what's a lie. So, the big question is, how did they do it? How do you actually turn a simple radio broadcast into a weapon that can affect the outcome of a war? It was an incredibly precise, almost scientific process. The mastermind of the operation, a propagandist named Sefton Delmer, he came up with this brilliant formula. He called it cover, dirt, cover. It's so simple. First, you start with the truth, the cover. You give them real soccer scores, actual weather reports, things they can verify. That builds trust. Then you slip in the dirt, the lie. A juicy rumor about a corrupt party official or a fabricated story about a military disaster. And then, before they can even get suspicious, you go right back to the cover. More facts, more music. And speaking of music, that was their Trojan horse. See, in Nazi Germany, that American-style big band jazz was basically forbidden. So these Allied stations played it all night long. They became the only place you could hear the good stuff. It got the soldiers to tune in, and it made them emotionally open to the messages that were woven in between the songs.
But they didn't just play the music, they weaponized it. They would take popular songs and rewrite the lyrics to be, well, demoralizing. For example, they took the hit song Paper Doll. And in their version, a woman sings that she's sorry, but she can't be a faithful little porcelain figurine forever. She needs a real man in spring. You can just imagine a soldier hearing that on the front lines. The message was unmistakable. Your girl's not gonna wait forever.
This was psychological warfare at its most intimate. The songs were laser-focused on a soldier's deepest fears: loneliness, jealousy, the anxiety of being forgotten. By stirring up all these emotions, it made them so much more vulnerable to the dirt, the rumors and lies designed to make them question everything. Okay, so it was clever, it was sophisticated. But did any of it actually work? Was it effective? The answer is a huge, resounding yes. The voices from that poison kitchen sowed chaos, bred distrust, and had a very, very real impact on the war. And you don't have to take my word for it. We know it worked because the German High Command was absolutely terrified of it. This is a captured internal memo warning their own officers about this specific radio station. It says, care must be taken not to popularize the name Soldatencenter Calais. They were afraid to even say its name because they knew it would just make more soldiers want to listen.
And the audience they could reach was enormous. Here's the kicker. The Nazis had basically done the groundwork for them. They had pushed for cheap, mass-produced radios in every home, so by 1941, 65% of German households had a direct pipeline to Allied propaganda.
The whole campaign hit its peak in March of 1945. It was called Operation Intruder. The Allies used a massively powerful transmitter to literally hijack official German radio frequencies. They'd cut into broadcasts with fake emergency announcements, ordering some officials to evacuate while telling everyone else to stay put and face death bravely. It created absolute chaos. And that chaos had an unbelievable and completely unintentional side effect. With all the conflicting reports and the news that the Allies were closing in, a prisoner train leaving the Bergen-Belsen concentration camp got stuck. Its route was blocked. The guards, in total confusion, just gave up and fled, abandoning the train and everyone on it.
American soldiers stumbled upon that abandoned train and liberated all 2,500 prisoners. And this is where the story comes full circle. One of those prisoners was a woman named Ilma. She was Agnes Bernauer's cousin. The voice that Agnes had used to sow confusion among the enemy had, by some incredible twist of fate, helped save a member of her own family.
About a week before Germany surrendered, on May 1st, 1945, the station gave its final sign-off. Say goodbye silently. The poison kitchen was officially closed for business, but the weapon it had perfected, disinformation on an industrial scale, that wasn't going anywhere.
The Allies knew exactly what they had created. As one official noted at the time, the war in the Pacific was still raging, and this model of disinformation would be expanded upon and used again. These techniques were just too powerful to put back in the box.
And that really is what brings us to today. The story of Vicky and the poison kitchen isn't just some dusty piece of history. It's the blueprint for so much of the modern disinformation we see all around us. And it leaves us with a question that's more relevant than ever. In a world drowning in information, how do we ever learn to tell the difference between the cover and the dirt?